Welcome to Practical Access. I'm Lisa Dieker.
And I'm Rebecca Hines. And Lisa, today I hope that we're on board with the idea of let's bring some tools. Let's bring some tools to these teachers who are looking for ways to support kids with disabilities and of all abilities when it comes to science and math.
Yeah, so that thought of how do you help kids when you get into data and computation and how do you make it fun and engaging? So I'm going to go with my strongest one I can recommend, federally funded, been for years, and that's PhET. It's PhET, super easy to find, and games, simulations, you name it, across all the following, and I'm just going to read them to you because I think it's important to know: physics, math and statistics, chemistry, earth and space, and biology. And you and I both know, and they're all accessible. There's some translated ones even in second language. But you and I both know that gaming is not something you can quickly find always in these areas, or you find one and you need to pay for it or what have you. So we definitely think getting kids more engaged through a gaming model could be very, very fun. What about you, Park?
Absolutely. And I'm going to go in a support direction. And this doesn't mean supporting kids with disabilities. It means supporting all students. And the website that I'm recommending is called Desmos. And it's a studio that is free to use online. It includes graphing calculators, matrices, geometry, creates 3D models, visuals. So it's a great tool to help bring math, to a more visual space, but also it is used with kids with visual impairment. It has more supports for kids with vision impairment than most tools that are available. And you and I both know from experience, we've had doctoral scholars and other students who really are underserved in a lot of the math and sciences, even especially at very high levels, because the tools really aren't designed to bring that kind of visual material to life. So the readers, the compatibilities, all of those things are built in. In fact, this particular tool is the one that is the graphing calculator that's built into the SAT. So using Desmos not only prepares kids and gives them an opportunity for accessibility, but by investing a little time in showing kids these tools, allowing all kids to use these tools, you're helping them prepare for the SAT. If this is a tool that's available on there, we should be pre-teaching and using this tool in our math classes. And I really challenge teachers to look at the accessibility features. They are well described on the website. And let's not assume kids can't do something. Let's give them the tools to demonstrate what they can do.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to one of the biggest mistakes I see people making with kids with disabilities, especially in the STEM areas, is, we have this concept of concrete representational abstract. And after a certain grade level, we stop taking the manipulatives out. I don't think you're ever too old to have manipulatives. I'm talking college algebra. I think you should have manipulatives. But a lot of times teachers will say, oh, just draw. Well, first of all, if I have a disability in drawing,
Right.
make me mad. And that is really not concrete. That's representational. And so oftentimes when kids are confused, we draw more, we talk more, we draw more, when really we should go back to that very basic concrete examples. And you can do things like look at the number of blocks on the floor or walk around the school or what have you. But I think we miss that quite often. And sometimes that physical engagement can be a game changer for students. So that's one that I think we often forget is a low-tech option, but it's probably one of the most important is manipulatives. And then I love graphic organizers, but I don't love teachers saying, here's the one you're going to use.
Right.
Uh, I love KNWS, which is a math. It's like KWL for reading. But again, we did a study and that didn't work for every kid. So don't assume that, oh, I'm going to teach you this strategy. A lot of the strategies we teach don't really work when kids get into advanced math classes. So be careful the strategy and the organizer you give. Put a lot of student choice in it, but understand the concept, whether it be science or math, what you're building on, and whether the kid can lead with that tool would be one of my thoughts.
And I appreciate you going back to the old school. I've seen some fantastic math results at schools that incorporate movement in the hallways, stepping, skipping, for young kids, a variety of ways to help kids really learn fundamentally the basics of math. But I wanted to share my other tool that I wanted to share is one that you know well, and that is Blockly. And Blockly is taking us in a different direction. It's a visual programming editor by Google that uses a drag and drop system for teaching basics of coding. And I don't know and I'm just being realistic, Lisa, in the advent of AI as we know and use it now, I don't know what kind of coding is going to be important in the future. I do believe knowing Blockly and knowing that we have used it with kids of all abilities, including small children with intellectual disabilities. It teaches patterning, it teaches sequencing, and a lot of those fundamental skills. So I feel like whether you want to explicitly teach coding for a purpose to students, or if you want to use it as a way to help kids get those conceptual skills in those areas, um, I strongly recommend it. And we've used it on Project Raise, as you know, which is a robotics project that we have done and just now completing with kids with disabilities using an AI chatbot to learn coding. So it's easy to use, it's intuitive, it's a great starting place. I also would say for parents, it's kind of a starting place there too. I feel that it's a tool that can be um, it it can be presented to a child and he or she can use not only their imagination, but some fundamentals of science to air quote play.
Yeah, and I agree 1,000%. I think what I love the most about Blockly too, and just Project Raise, which has kind of a modified version of Blockly that's free, is is that ability to fail. Because really good math and science is about not getting the right answer, but learning how to fail to get to the right answer. And I think that's what Blockly does
Right.
really well without going, you got it wrong.
Right.
It's not the
Right.
it's not the game that the typical game we see today where it ends for you because you didn't get it right. It allows you to keep trying and trying and trying again. And I think that perseverance is something we all very much value. Well, I have just one last thought that I kind of keeps me up at night in the STEM area. And that is oftentimes I go to IEP meetings or I hear, or my own son, well, they don't have a disability in math. No, but if you have Tourette's, reading your science book and your math book could be hard. So maybe you need a goal for modified text. Or I have a lot of friends who have really severe language, kids with severe language based needs. And there should be an IEP goal that says when there's complex text in science, or, they'll get teacher support or images when possible, because now, AI can do that. Or for math, we really have to think better about word problems and really understanding that even though I have mathematical knowledge, if I have a language based issue, mathematics today is all about talking and all about critical thinking, because Copilot, Khan Amigo, Khan Acad, anybody can answer the question for you. It's the processing. If language processing an issue, I highly recommend people be thinking about IEP goals, not 400 of them. We don't need more goals, but we need clear, articulated goals that are meaningful in those STEM areas. How about you, Becky?
I 1000% agree.
Woohoo!
And to that same end, uh, I think, as you mentioned, with the lower stakes kinds of AT or strategies that we can use. I just want to remind everyone that if you have kids who are using communication devices of any type, and even if that means, even if they're not formally using a communication device, but they are nonverbal or struggling verbally, create a communication board that includes your very specific vocabulary that you're using in your math lesson or in your science lesson. So if you're teaching about the atmosphere, you want to have something that a child could point to respond to a question that you ask. It's very difficult to assess what kids are really learning, even in the best case scenario. But for someone who is nonverbal, maybe a low reader, having something, some kind of response board, whether it's old school or something that's programmed into a device, make sure you're giving them access to the vocabulary that you're teaching on a daily um, format. This is something that special ed teachers can support gen ed teachers in creating. It's something that paras could be taught to help create, but we have to make sure that kids have access to respond, and that I want to remind us to think about those kids.
And I love that, because one of the things I've really been pushing in my teacher prep and just the teachers I have the privilege of seeing is, why not give everybody those images?
Exactly.
So that everybody sees that. And so now it's just natural that they accept,
Exactly.
Lisa put an image on the board, let me put that on the device. So that
Exactly.
everybody sees it.
Ask everybody to point to the answer. You know, again, that's how you know that they understand. You can glance and see that. And then also
jump to the answer. I mean, or you all run to the,
exactly.
I think that's where we're going to go. So again, I think this goes back to our first session. Inquiry is great, and assisting in modeling data and computation is great. But think about games, think about low level tech, higher level tech, and again, image based, and making sure that's a part of the communication system for everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. And if you have questions, send us a tweet at Access Practical, or post a question on our Facebook at Practical Access. Thanks.